Thank you, Maddie. Listen, I have to ask, have you ever had an embarrassing moment in your life that is so embarrassing that now in the present, like this is something that has already happened, now in the present, when you think about it, you're still embarrassed? Absolutely. I got a lot of, like you think about it now and you think about how cringe it was. You think about how horrible that conversation was. You think about how embarrassing it was that you slipped in front of the entire school at lunch. Like, whatever it might be. The thing is, like, for me is, I hate embarrassment. Out of all the feelings, it's probably my least favorite one. And so, like, I avoid it at all costs. And when it comes to, like, dating, anytime you had the chance to be embarrassed because of relationships or anything like that, or because of conversations, I didn't have them. But what I did have were friends who just like to see a little bit of chaos. Do you guys have friends who are just like, you know what, I'm not afraid of embarrassment. I'm just going to say what needs to be said. They're pointing at Grace or pointing at, they're just going to say whatever needs to be said. And they're not afraid of what the embarrassment is. When it was me and I was dating, or maybe I was in a relationship, my friend would come to me and say, I don't know really where I am with this person. I think I'm just going to just straight up just ask a question, where are we? And I'm sitting there like, no, don't do that. I'm like, you're really opening yourself up there. They might just say, no, that's not at all what this is. You're reading this wrong. And for me, I'm like, do not say that. But they're like, I don't care. They go straight into it. They have that conversation. And then when it goes poorly and the embarrassment kind of happens, I feel that like second-hand embarrassment. Like when they're telling you about it later, and I'm just like, I can't even listen to what you're saying right now because I can put myself in their shoes, and I'm like, this is so awkward, and I can't handle it. But then sometimes after a conversation like that, it's like, actually, it went great. Actually, we're better together now. We're on the same page. That conversation, while it started as a potential thing that could have been awkward, it turned into something great. And I'm like, I can't relate because I wouldn't have the conversation. Now, maybe you've been there when it comes to dating or relationships, and maybe things didn't work out with someone you liked, or maybe you just didn't seem like that person ended up being the right person for you. Maybe you've never really been even a part of a relationship at all. But regardless, the next couple of weeks, this series is for all of us. See, while fewer people are using the term dating to describe like a romantic relationship, there are a few different words that we might use today to categorize them. You might be saying, we're not dating, but I mean, we're just hanging out. You might be like, yeah, we're hanging out. Like, what does that mean? What does it mean? We're just hanging out. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And then you might say, okay, we're not just hanging. We're in a situationship. Like a situationship. Like what is that? Doesn't even make any sense. Like, this is the worst one because you want to hear the most. You're like, we're just talking. I'm like, what do you mean you're just talking? I talk to people all day. Like, what do you mean you're talking? Or maybe you're just trying to convince somebody that you're just friends, and you're nothing more than friends. Or maybe someone's trying to convince you that you're just friends, and you're not picking up on it. I don't know where you are. I don't know where you are, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here for the rest of this series. When we use the term dating, we are going to define it as being in a relationship, however you would label it, where the other person means more to you than just being a good friend. Like that person means something more to you than they are just a good friend. There's some sort of romantic connection between the two of you. And here at Youth United, myself, David, all the small group leaders, we want to help you date well. We want you to date well. Because if you're going to date, you might as well do it in a good way. You might as well date well. And so we want to help you do that. But some of you might be thinking, I'm just not interested in talking about such a personal topic. And you might be saying that because you're in a situation where it doesn't have a label. You're both good with that. And you don't feel like you need to be exclusive. You don't need to put labels on it. You're just having fun. And you're thinking right now, well, why should I make it so complicated? Why make things more complicated than they already are? Maybe dating is so far from your priorities right now. You're like, I have goals and I have aspirations, and I feel like dating would just maybe get in the way of that. So you're thinking, why worry about something that isn't important to me right now? Maybe you're looking around the world and you're just like, I just don't see anybody who I'm interested in. The people that I'm around on a consistent basis, like, I'm just not interested in any of them. So you're thinking, why obsess over a lack of viable options? Maybe you're just sitting here and you're like, I just want that person to date me, but they don't seem to want me the same way that I would like them. I don't know where you are, but regardless of how you would say or you would rate your interest in dating right now, whether you're dating somebody now or you feel like you're going to be single for the rest of your life, chances are favorable that a lot of us are going to date someone at some point in our lives. And if you're going to have a relationship one day, then what we're talking about today can give you the best shot of having a great experience when you do. But let me be honest with you. The Bible doesn't directly talk about dating in the way that we think about it today. But despite a lack of explicit or crystal clear instructions, there are some very important and helpful things that we can read about in Scripture that can help us when it comes to dating well. And so today we're going to look at a practical part of the Old Testament called Proverbs. And this entire book was dedicated to wisdom. We've talked about this over the last series. We went through a couple of different Proverbs, and this whole book is dedicated to wisdom. By wisdom, we mean by knowing what is good, what is right, or what is best, given a particular set of circumstances. And this proverb that we're reading today is by a guy named Solomon. Again, we talked about Solomon during the last series. Solomon asked God for wisdom, and God gave him wisdom. Now, we can't really argue about how wise Solomon was, but we can argue about how wise some of Solomon's decisions were. But he wrote down some really smart things. And there are some things in here that can really help us when it comes to dating. And what we're going to read about here, Solomon wrote, and it sounds like a lesson that Solomon had to learn the hard way. It wasn't just something he pulled out of thin air. When you read this, it seems like it's something that Solomon learned because of mistakes he made in his life. This is from Proverbs 24:27. It says, "Put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house." Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably asking, like, what does this have to do with dating whatsoever? I'm literally thinking he's just talking about building a building right now. Like, this is what Solomon means, but I'll get to that in just a second. But have you ever seen, like, a tractor in a field where it goes from grass to all of a sudden dirt where they're about to build something on it? Like, have you ever seen just a wide open field, nothing's been there for years, maybe nothing's ever been there before, and all of a sudden they start ripping up the ground. They start taking out all the old vegetation. They start taking out all the things that are dead inside of that. And they clear out the land. And this all happens before a house is built. But it's after the blueprints have been written. There's architectural plans behind it. There's some strategy to it. But before they can actually start to build, they have to clean out. They have to redo some of the foundation. And I think that's the wisdom that Solomon writes about here. Wisdom that can be relevant for us today. He's saying, 1, prepare your land so that you can build a strong and stable house. And 2, then get to work building a strong and stable house. And a big part of building a strong and stable house starts before you put up a single wall. While you probably just want to start building it immediately, if you don't put work into the foundation, if you don't put work into the dirt that you're building on, then when you build the house, it's not going to be a strong and stable house. You see, preparation is the foundation on which success is built. And while that sounds good, we all struggle with this. Like we can all agree that preparation is important, but we still struggle with our preparation because we know that like there's a big test coming up, but we don't study for it until 10 minutes before. We know that we need to make a certain GPA so I can get into that school, but we don't really take our grades seriously until like halfway through our junior year. We know that we have a really big recital, but I'm not really practicing until a couple days before. We know that tryouts are coming up, but sometimes Xbox just sounds better than playing soccer. We know that preparation is key for us to succeed. However, sometimes we get distracted, and we all do it. And there's no shame in that because it happens to all of us. Sometimes it can be smart for us to take the easy route, but life doesn't always work that way. If we want things to turn out to their full potential, which we all do when it comes to dating, then we need to take the best steps that we can so that we can be ready when that opportunity comes. So how in the world do fields of construction and building houses apply to dating? I believe what we can say is, one, we have to prepare yourself so that you can build a strong and healthy relationship. And two is then get to work building strong and healthy relationships. You see, this can make all the difference in the world. And when it comes to dating, this can change everything. Relationships can be a big role in shaping who you ultimately become. Because whether things work out with that special someone or you guys end up going your separate ways, the decisions that you make while you date will shape you in the future. Think of it like this. Who you date may be temporary, but who you become is lasting. We are laying a foundation of who we are becoming today. Our character, our faith, and our choices are laying the foundation of who you are ultimately going to become one day. And yes, God is always in the process of helping us grow and change. But if we want to have the best dating potential that we can, then it starts with us taking a hard look at ourselves instead of wanting the other person to just be the right person. We can lay the foundation of becoming the kind of person that we want to be, whether things work out with the person we are dating or the person that we want to date. I want to take a look at this other passage that was written by the Apostle Paul. He was a person who wrote most of the New Testament. He's a very influential leader. And this is, if you go to any wedding, you are likely going to hear this verse. It's this, 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. It says, love is patient and kind. It is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no records of being wrong. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith. It's always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. When we think about love, isn't that what we all want? Don't we all want to experience that kind of love? And most of us hear that and it's like, yes, I want to find somebody who has that kind of love for me. But our job is to look in the mirror and say, am I able to give that kind of love to someone else? What does 1 Corinthians 13 mean to us? It means that before we start looking for those incredible qualities in somebody else, we need to start looking for those incredible qualities within ourselves. We need to become that kind of person right now. Learning to live in a way. Learning to live in that way and becoming the type of person that Paul writes about here. And whether you're interested in dating right now or not, we can still take steps into becoming a person that can be defined by that version of love. We have to be patient. We have to be kind. We have to be humble. And that will create better, stronger, and healthier relationships for each of us. And our friendships, our families, and potentially our dating life will be healthier than it ever was. We tend to think that eventually we're going to meet the right person. And you might just want, at some point, meet the right person who can meet all those things that Paul wrote about, but you first have to become the right person. Now, regardless of where you are right now when it comes to dating, just know that it's never too late to work on this. Even if you are in a relationship already, and things have been a little more difficult, you've been trying to decide, am I going to stay with this person or not? You are still able to start growing in these aspects of your life. And I have 2 practical steps for you to get started. One is to choose who you want to work on becoming. Choose who you want to work on becoming, not what they are becoming. Choose who you want to work on becoming. And this is why. Because going back to the idea of building a house, if you're good at just one of these things of love, like if you're just good at one aspect of it, it's not going to ultimately be enough. You see, it doesn't just take a hammer to build a house. It takes all these different tools in order to make sure that a house has a good foundation and is built in a strong and firm way. And if you want to be able to have a relationship that is going to be healthy, have a relationship that's going to be strong, have a relationship that's able to go through tough times together, then you can't just be humble. You can't just be honest. We have to work on being kind. We have to work on being patient. We have to work on not being jealous. We have to work on all of these things so that we can have the best relationships possible. Step 2, it's practice. Now, what I'm not saying is just go and date people. Like, go get out there and go figure it out. I'm not saying just go and date people so that when the right person comes around, you're ready. What I am saying is we have non-dating relationships around us every single day. We have relationships with our friends. We have relationships with our families. We have people that we care about. And sometimes we treat those people differently than we treat the people who we are dating. We have the opportunity to grow in our ability to have healthy dating relationships by growing in our ability to have healthy friendships. The kind of love that Paul was talking about, he's not just talking about a dating relationship. With your best friends, you can still have a very similar kind of love that we trust one another, that we're humble together, that we're just good friends. We can practice with the relationships that are around us. And my challenge for you is to simply pick 2 things that were listed in that 1 Corinthians passage. You'll have that 1 Corinthians passage again in your small groups. I want you to go through it and pick 2 of them. Pick 2 of the things that maybe you're like, I could work on that in my life. Focus on 2 qualities that he talked about. Maybe it's being more patient and being more kind. Maybe it's being more humble and more forgiving. Maybe it's being hopeful and gentle. But find 2 things that you're like, I could grow in this. And challenge yourself and look at your life this week. Where can I grow in these 2 ways? The truth is, you are not going to wake up tomorrow after hearing a sermon and being like, well, I can love somebody perfectly now. Like, wow, that was so great. He said the word, I'm ready. I can go and love somebody. I'm ready to be the perfect boyfriend or the perfect girlfriend. This takes a lot of practice. You're not going to wake up one day and be good at it. But if one day you do want to be good at it, we have to practice today so that one day we are ready. Practicing into these qualities in 1 Corinthians 13 can have a huge impact on your relationships and ultimately can have a huge impact on your life. So instead of spending time and energy trying to find the right someone faster, spend time building your own foundation. Spend time becoming the person that you want to become. Because who you date may be temporary, but who you become is lasting. Pray with me.